Hello there. Welcome to week 4 of Introduction to Programming. So, today we will be learning how to use the if statement, and different variations of the if statement. Now, the if statement is used when you have a condition and you want different outcomes for different conditions. So, the if statement, is a simple one. It can only take one condition and give you two outputs depending on whether the condition is true or if the condition is false. So, let's say I have used scanners, and I have used scan dot next int, and I have an integer that is saved under the variable number. Okay, so if number is greater than 0, now realize that you have to put this inside normal brackets, and then inside curly brackets you will put your output. So if number is greater than 0, I can say, and I can take another variable. Let me take int answer. Answer is equal to 1. Now that is if the number is greater than 0. So if I put 1, then the answer will be 1. If I put 5, the answer will be 1. But let's say I put 0. What will happen? Well, nothing will happen. But let's say I want something to happen. So if this statement is false, I want an answer. So there I can use else. I don't have to put a condition because that is, this else will only work if this statement is false. We open curly brackets and we put answer is equal to 2. This is one way of doing it, but the cons of doing this is that you only have two outputs for one condition. So what would be the answer for having many conditions? Well, that is where the else if comes in. So let's say, instead of taking a very simple one like this, we have a variable that is a string, right? So I have to input a string, and imagine any string that comes over here. Let's say I can insert apple, but the options include banana, the options include orange. Now these are the three options. Now what I can do is I can detect if string is apple, and I can have an output. Let's say I want banana. I can put else if. Remember, else if is the saying we have another condition. The string is equal to banana, and we can have an output. Right. And we finally also can have another one. Else if string is equal to orange, we get another output. But there is one very important thing that you should know when it comes to strings. Not strings, if. If must end with a final else clause, right? And it should have a final, value, as like, what if none of them happen? What should be the final one? So we can put an output that is a null output, that is just print that a null or something like that. So this is very important when we are using the if statement. And another one that we can use that is very similar to the if statement is the ternary statement. So ternary means 3. How does it work? Well, instead of writing the if clause for every single one. Let's say that we have a number that's an integer. We can simply put number is equal to, and we can open brackets, put our condition here. If it is true, it'll execute this command, and if it false, it'll execute the command over here. For example, let's say I have input a number, and I can input number, and I have another variable which is, let's say, car. Okay, if car is greater than 1, that is a question. If it is a yes, let's say I want the output to be, number is equal to +1, right? Number is equal to number +1. And if it is false, number is equal to number -1. So this is how you use the ternary output, ternary statement. And finally, we have something which is a validation check. Now, let's say I want to check whether a value is greater or less than amount. For instance, let's say I want to check marks. So if there are marks are usually in between 0 and 100. It can be any value in between 0 and 100. If it is less than 0, right, it is not acceptable, right? If it is greater than 0, it is also not acceptable. Sorry, if it is less than 0, right? So we need to do a check, a validation check. So there are two ways to do this. One, by using the if clause that we just learned. It's not a clause. I keep saying clause, but it's not a clause. It's a statement. Please remember that. So first thing we can do is we can put the system out print, and we can ask the marks. And what we can do is we can save the marks using our already defined scanner. I usually use SCN, so next int, or we can use next double, right? So after this, I can check whether if marks is less than 0, or remember this is or, not and, or marks is greater than 100. If so, I can do under system out print. Again, I would like to remind you, it's system.out.print, and we can print something like, oh, this is terminated, or the project terminated. And then we can use the return function, where what it'll do, it is return to main, so it will essentially terminate the function. But let's say that a person is entering his marks for different subjects, and he comes across one subject and he feels that one wrong. Wouldn't it be like a shame to make him do it all over again? So what's the answer for that? Well, the answer for that is known as the while loop. What is the while loop, you may ask? Well, here it is. While has 3 parts, right? So we can say while marks is less than 0, or marks is greater than 100, right? We can print out that the marks is wrong. We can then again do the same thing, asking the marks again, right? We can do the same thing, asking the marks one more time. And then what we can do is we can again, uh, use the scanner and do the change the variable again. So if anyone keeps on making the mistake, they will be stuck in this loop until marks is greater than 0 or less than 100. So it should be less than or equal to, because sometimes some may get 0, sometimes some may get 100, right? So this is one thing. Secondly, while loops are used in another different situation. For instance, while, so let's say we have an integer called I. So we can have something like this. While I is less than 100 and I is uh, greater than 0, less than 100 and greater than 0, we can put output here. So this output will work, keep on working while I is less than 100 or greater than 0. Meaning if I takes any value from 1 to 99, this program will keep on running on and on and on and on and on, and it won't stop. So sometimes you want to use the I as like, do it this many times. The while loop and if loop, both of them are not good for that job. So who is good enough? Well, introducing to you, ladies and gentlemen, the for loop. For has three parts: initial, the end, and what should change. Now, same thing I'm going to do for int I. For I, which is equal to or less than equal to 0, I is, so, oh, I'm sorry. That is why we use the for loop. For loop has three parts: the initial, I equal to 0, the end, it should run until I is less than or equal to 100, and the output that should happen, I is, so what this essentially means is, so this can be shortened into this. Okay, so what will happen is, if I is equal to 0, this program, whatever I do in here, whatever output I put in here, will run 100 times, right? Again and again and again and again. It will keep on running until I is equal to 100, right? So this is all there is. And one more thing I think I should mention is the ternary has something called a nested ternary. So as you all know, so ternary has three parts: two brackets, question mark, and a semicolon. So let's say we have a variable, right? We want the variable to change for different statements. So here's how we do that. So we put the variable, we equate it, and we start the operation. So we'll say here, I'm going to write this in blue, condition 1. Is condition 1 true? If yes, we'll have an output. If it is false, we can nest this in another ternary, and we can put condition 2. Is that true? If that is true, we can have output 2, and if it is false, we have output 3. Then we can close this bracket, and we can finally close the main bracket. This is how you nest ternary on ternary. So this is condition 1, this is output 2. So you can keep on doing this on and on and on, but it's recommended to use the if else statement because it is much more easy and much more seeable than seeing one line of continuous code. So that's all there is. And one final part of this, which is a different version of this. It's called switch and case. Now the problem with using switch and case is it is for mainly for primitive data. Well, primitive data as in char and integers. So what you can do is you can write switch and we can put a variable here. So this is the variable that we check. For instance, let's say we have int, that is, we can input a value over here. So we check int, and here's how we write cases. And for case, let's say case is 0, right? We do a semicolon and we write the output over here. So we can do case is for 1, and we can go on and on and on. We can even do something like this: case is for 0, 1, 2, and 3, and we can write our output over here. So these are just the different ways how you can use if and decision making processes programs that you can use in Java. So that's all. Until meet again. Thank you. See you.